Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Laura Hanson with Connect My Brain. We are so glad that you are with us. So we are continuing in our series on collaborative health. Remember the last two podcasts, we've been talking about how the healthcare profession really needs to come together and put that patient in the center and what valuable other types of therapies can really benefit that patient. And the beauty of it is it's all underneath one roof. So even at Connect My Brain, we have a collaborative approach with our therapies. So we have a 3-tier approach, mechanical, chemical, brain. So we're incorporating many things. But then I was invited to come and join a group called Brain and Body Rehabilitation Specialists in Roswell, Georgia. And I thought, what a great idea. First of all, we'd been talking about these things for years, but then I go, you know what? Let's get every single one of these providers on the podcast so that we can share with our community all the different types of therapies and services that we offer and what it might mean for you. And this way, if you get a little bit of background about somebody, you might have a light bulb go off, which is a gamma moment, a gamma brainwave moment. And you might say to yourself, that's something I think I'm missing. So today is no different. I have my colleague, Jennifer Novak, who is a kinesiologist with us today. And I got to tell you, the one thing I love about Jennifer, she likes toys like I do. You go into her room and there are so many cool little things and she teaches us about them and they really have an amazing impact on people. I've already seen it with just even a few of the cases that I've been able to be part of. So without further ado, Jennifer, welcome to the podcast. We're so glad that you're with us. And take it away. Tell us about Jennifer. What got you involved in kinesiology?
Well, Dr. Laura, thanks for having me today. It just means a lot to me that you're including all of us in your podcast. I took the time to listen to your intro to the collaborative healthcare model, and I just sat there nodding my head and smiling and say, yes, this is what it's all about. And I love how we've come together as we all have the same, I feel like, foundation for why we do what we do, but we can also bring a different paradigm or a different perspective to a person's situation and really provide, I would say, a best case scenario, of care and progression for that person. So thanks for having me. And,
absolutely.
My profession kind of found me instead of me finding it, but I can look back and see where all the pieces of the puzzle wound up fitting together. But you may or may not know this about me. I got my master's in kinesiology at an osteopathic university.
Oh, okay.
So because it was more of a holistically based healthcare and health sciences university, I was able to learn things in a more integrated and interdependent way. A lot of the focus of the master's degree was first on motor control, even down to the developmental level. We also, our anatomy and physiology classes went into development, and you learned phylogenetically, what systems developed before others, and helped me gain a broader based perspective than I may have gotten through traditional human performance or exercise science university. So I love that. I love that they went into motor control. I also loved that we talked about the dynamic systems theory. Are you familiar with the dynamic systems theory?
Yes, I am actually. Yeah.
So I like to tell
But maybe
people,
our audience isn't. So why don't you explain that?
Yes. So in a sentence, because we want to keep our time respectful, I say the dynamic systems theory tells you that if you change one part of a dynamic system, you have effectively changed the whole system. In
like
other words,
the butterfly effect.
Yes, there's nothing that operates in isolation. And you talk about having a 3-tiered way you look at the body. Well, I call mine a triad or a 3-pronged view of the body. So mine is going to be mechanical, just like yours, neurological or brain, just like yours. And my third one is energetically. And so what I mean by energetically is that I have discovered over the years, and I've had the opportunity to just take so many courses from, I didn't want to put myself in a box, and I wanted to stay open-minded to what some of the more ancient things were, like traditional Chinese medicine, some of the energy stuff, and how it fits in. There's more and more research that's starting to take place, adding that energetic portion into what goes on in the body. And I'm pretty convinced now, empirically anyway, and then with the papers that are out there, that the meridians play a role in overall function of that body.
Sure.
And so I've been able to mix what I've learned through my master's degree. I took a year-long postgraduate course in functional and developmental neurology, which really, that was about 5 years ago, I started looking at functional neurology, and I took a course on vestibular work. Realized that sometimes it was vestibular as to why that person wasn't progressing.
Right.
And that helped me. Well, then I saw a podcast of a guy who did functional neurology, and he started talking about ADHD and which hemisphere it was likely residing in, or where there was a deficit or an underperformance. And I just thought to myself, gosh, so many of the high school athletes that I work with have that diagnosis. And I thought to myself, if I can learn something natural to help these kids be better athletes, and then maybe we get the bonus of them being better in school and at life, then I'm all in. So I spent a year taking that course. I actually wound up serving on a committee for that doc to write their non-healthcare practitioner certification exam. So that was fun. And it's just radically changed the way I look at the human body. And the cool thing is that as I look at the neurology, of that person, we look at primitive reflexes, we look at base muscle tone, which you know is brainstem mediated. We look at eye movements and vestibular. And that brings the whole picture as to why maybe someone's performance is off, or somebody keeps getting this nagging injury, or they had an injury and they can't get over it. Maybe there's something up here in the GPS or the central nervous system that is kind of the kink in the garden hose. And so I like to get the kink out of the garden hose and let everything flow. If we can flow mechanically, neurologically, and energetically, that's just the most awesome thing that I can provide for somebody.
There's already, in doing these podcasts, such a familiar and similar conversation going on. So you are the third person from our office that I've done the podcast for. And there's this consistent message: eye movements, vestibular, energy, how it all interrelates. And, this is really moving healthcare on that pendulum in a completely different way, because most people, especially people that are probably going to hear this, they've gone in a traditional model. I still have these conversations with people, adults, that are just now learning to look at the side effect of a medication, of something that is actually manifesting in their body. Just between, today's Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday, having this conversation with an adult who was having a lot of trouble in her legs, and they're calling it compartment syndrome. And their plan is to do surgery. She brings it up to me, and I'm going, okay, hold on. We can always have surgery, but let's look at some other pieces before we jump into that, because and it's never about trying to take away from the other healthcare model, but golly, surgeries are serious. And like you said, it can be one injury causing something else. Well, she had failed to tell me that she's actually on a statin medication.
Oh my
Was that
goodness.
already going off in your head? I could
exactly.
I could
Yes.
see the light bulb,
Yes.
And she today she was here and she goes, I went and did exactly what you told me to do and look up the medication. And do you know that it has muscle wasting as a side effect? And I go, oh my gosh. I said, are you on a cholesterol lowering medication? I go, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah. It's
And
almost
I go,
like
yes.
slow motion. It's like slow motion rhabdo.
Yes. I mean, so the idea is, again, that's their tools in their bag, right? And I think our goal as a practice is we've got so many different people in there and we are learning how to work together. But every single one of us are putting that patient in the middle. And the awesome part about BBRS, Brain Body Rehabilitation Specialist, we have no side effects, So let me ask you this. I love what you said. I love about your 3-tier approach. So what does it look like? What's a common thing that comes to you? How do you look at it? What's a typical recommendation? What's it look like in an office visit with Jennifer?
So that's a great question. The best way for me to share that with you is to maybe tell a couple of stories. Is it okay if I handle it that way?
Yes.
So,
I think that's the easiest way too.
Let me tell you the story of 2 golfers. Okay. And the first golfer started golfing at 11, and by the time age 11 and loved it. Well, by the time I saw him, he was 13. The father owns his own personal training studio. I've known him a very long time. And I did know that his son had some learning challenges, right? Mm-hmm. So they came in really for his golf game because the golf pro that they had him working with said he keeps turning his lead foot out. It's causing him to slice the ball. And they couldn't correct it. They'd tell him to do it, but his natural thing was to turn that foot out. Mm-hmm. Well, it turned out that it was a cerebellar and vestibular issue. And he prefers to use his left hemisphere. Spatial awareness is in the right hemisphere, as you probably know. So what we did, and the beauty, like you say, there's no side effects. We use targeted, or in my space, I use targeted light, color, sound, vibration in a very targeted way to upregulate the areas of his brain that I feel like are just non-preferred or underperforming. I like to say the non-preferred side because it's not like it's turned off in most cases. It's just that they prefer operating out of one side or the other.
And so that's what you're talking about with hemisphere, right?
Yes.
For our audience, just to kind of break down some terms, okay?
Yes.
So hemisphere, each side of the
brain.
Right.
They both process everything. They just process it differently. Mm-hmm. And that can be manifested in base muscle tone. It can be manifested in anxiety levels or the ability to express yourself either verbally or written. It can result in sleep disturbances, gut disturbances. I mean, the list goes on, right?
Right.
Well, I wasn't able to get the son's buy-in to really changing his diet, which would have made him even better. But the good news is that as we use that targeted way of using the 5 senses to kind of rebuild his brain from the bottom up, emphasizing the side that we wanted to kind of play a role a little better for him, not only did his golf game improve, but the parents told me that the teachers were writing home and saying, hey, your son's participating in class. He's getting better grades. He won a game that we played. Anyway, So there was the bonus. He became a better athlete and he became a better student.
That's awesome.
That's like a win-win, right?
Oh,
so let's
absolutely.
fast forward, because I said I had 2 golfers.
Yes.
Then I have a strength coach send me a pro golfer who had a hip injury. And the traditional means of changing that hip and getting him over to, it was affecting his swing, and he wanted to keep his pro card. And so when I looked at him, one of the things we look at is the presence or the return of primitive reflexes. And he did have a history of a concussion, which is one of the ways that those can return. Sometimes they never get fully integrated, but sometimes they return after an injury or an insult to the brain. And he, sure enough, had a positive Babinski on the same side as that hip injury.
Wow.
So again, we use the targeted ways to kind of integrate that reflex and get him back into cortical control. I always tell people, if you're reflexive in an area of your body, it means you don't have cortical control over that area of your body. And these different reflexes can lead to foot and ankle issues, knee, low back, neck and shoulder. They can affect
everything,
athletic performance, and they can affect your daily activities, right?
Yes.
And it also affects how well you're using both sides of your brain. So we were able to integrate that reflex. Again, we used the 5 senses, and sure enough, he was able to get back in the groove. And the last time I heard, the guy was doing great and had kept his tour card. So that's my story of 2 golfers.
That's great. And I love that you brought in the athletic side, because that's one of the things, even in neurofeedback, is we can influence peak performance. So even though we get on these podcasts or wherever our platforms are, and we're talking about healthcare, I also want to put a little bit of stardom on peak performance. When we went through all this stuff that we've gone through over the last couple of years, and so many people have lost their businesses, and that entrepreneurial spirit has really been squashed. We need the entrepreneur back up, feeling charged. So if you're listening and you're going, I'm not sure if this is really about me, but it doesn't matter if it's been an injury, a retained reflex, as Jennifer was talking about, or maybe you just want to perform better. There are so many ways to make the brain function better. Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. Well, I really hope it doesn't take 10 years, but I really think we're on a good trajectory. So let me ask you this. I can see why you got so interested in the work that you're doing. So what now is this step that brought you to the BBRS, the collaborative level? And how do you see it really connecting from your perspective in the group? Oh, wow. Mm, mm. Yes. Yeah, we've lost you, and I'm not sure. Yep, we did. Well, I'm not sure that we'll be able to get her back. We will try, but I will work on completing the podcast. So I think she's trying to come back up.
Yeah.
There you are.
Am I
Okay,
back?
great. All
It
right.
just asked me to refresh for some odd reason. So,
That's okay.
needless to say, we developed a mutual respect for our skill set. And I had been a solo practitioner for 16 years.
Uh-huh.
And kind of like you said, I had a decision to make. I was like, could I be this small, anonymous person? Or should I be part of something that's bigger than myself? And I've learned over the years, especially through the NSCA, I've had the opportunity to speak with some really brilliant minds who have mentored me. I've had their ear. They have my ear. Some in sports medicine and rehab, some in strength and conditioning, being strength coaches for universities or pro teams or whatever. And I recognize the value of surrounding myself with people who know more than I do. And I feel like that's what I joined. I joined a bunch of experts in their field who they all make their own mark. You've got your neurofeedback, and Dr. Noel has his the vestibular recalibration that he's doing, and his PEMF, and then Dr. Ben, gosh, he has all those fascinating pieces of equipment, and the way he looks at the body and uses the eye movements and uses just gentle stimulation to make big changes in the body. And I could go on and on and on, right, with all the other people there.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be an engaging opportunity, but a learning opportunity. And the only thing it can do is make us individually better, but also more robust in what we can bring to the party to help people. And I'm hardwired to help people. I don't know how to be another way.
Sure. Well, I think it's really important that as a community, we begin to do more of this, that we're working together, we're putting that patient in the middle, and we're all under one roof. And I can even visualize that we will probably add even other professions to, if not come in, at least be part of the collaborative circle, right? So I think that is such an important part, especially, you know this, people come in, they see you, and they tell you all the other people that they're seeing, but there's very little communication between them, between those providers, really, if any. And so that's what I love about what you initiated at BBRS. We have our team that's there, but now every Wednesday we get together and we do clinical collaboration.
Yeah.
And we just had our first meeting with a parent yesterday via Zoom, where all the providers were there discussing the patient and putting forth the plan, but also letting that parent be part of the discussion, right? Rather than having somebody only tell you how it has to be. We have to keep that ear. We have to keep that ear and listen, because, that was one thing I really learned in chiropractic school, was the history itself gives you the differential of what's going on with that patient. Your exam is to validate. your conversations are to bring in more pieces to consider. And it's just not enough to do one little simple test and make some kind of decision, because so many times people are literally saying, well, that's about all I can do for you. And they're off and they're still having issues. And it's everything. It's from trauma. It's imbalances in the chemistry of the body. It's, thank goodness we're all into the brain, because, and I think the world has really opened up to the idea of the brain. And so now we're looking at the brain, and we're putting that whole piece together. So what are your thoughts as we wrap it up? What do you want this community to know? And if you have a special offer for our podcast audience, or maybe they'll see it on YouTube, but how do people get in touch with you? What are the ideal cases? And if you do have a special offer, feel free to say.
Okay. Well, real briefly, you mentioned trauma and you mentioned communication. And one of the things that I love about what I do, and the reason I'm kind of eclectic with the pieces of the puzzle that I bring in, is because as you gain a rapport with the people who come to see you, there's so many times that they say something and it's that aha, and you go, oh my gosh, that means we have to look at this. And it may mean I send them out to you or one of the other practitioners. But to give you an example, I had a lady who came to me. She was having problems with her hip flexors and it was hurting her tennis game. Well, as we start talking, she was traumatized as a kid when her father passed away. So meanwhile, if you think about the meridians, well, where the kidney meridian crosses, it goes right over the psoas, which is her hip flexor. Meanwhile, she's telling me these stories about after her father died, and I could tell that she has this fear and anxiety. And then she was telling me that she felt like her man picker was broken, that she would lose these really good humans because she was too afraid to commit to them.
Yeah.
So while I'm in there to try to help that hip flexor, after several weeks, and the special I'm going to tell you about is with the software that I have, we actually used the software I have that uses, again, light, color, sound, vibration, eye movements. I can specify the hemisphere I'm trying to work with after my evaluation. But we dealt with, I have some emotions on there that just use sound and looking at a screen with certain colors on it. I have target organs on there that I can target that whole body that way. Well, she comes in after about, 6 sessions of doing this software with me. She goes, I got something to tell you. I said, okay, hit me. So part of her issue, she had kidney stones. This is all part of that holistic fear is stored in the kidneys, right? The psoas is involved. It's the muscle associated with the kidney meridian. She had a failed lixotropy that involved putting a stent in her ureter. And she had a lot of pain in that one hip flexor. So, and it caused a lot of urgency, right? She said, I slept 8 hours last night and never woke up to go to the bathroom. I said, well, that's awesome. So meanwhile, all I'm doing is trying to help her hip flexors to help her tennis game, right?
Right.
This is what it blossoms into.
Picture.
She said, but I got more. She said, I used to have this recurring dream theme where things would be, I'd have to fix something, but it would be chaotic. And I would always wake up and the dream would end chaotic. I would never have the solution. She goes, last night I had a dream and it wasn't chaotic and the solution was in my dream. I'm like,
oh, that's wonderful.
That's amazing. And she goes, but I got more. I said, well, go ahead. She said, someone told me they wanted to introduce me to a guy they knew. It's the first time I can ever remember that I didn't say inside myself, well, yeah, whatever. He's not going to like me and I'm not going to like him and it's never going to work out. She said, I actually thought, I might like to meet this guy. And I thought, oh my goodness, just by organizing and orchestrating all of those things together, somehow it's not just helped her tennis game, it's changed her life.
Well, sure. Well, listen, how do people find you? That's great.
So obviously you can go to yourbbrs.com. It will take you a link to my website, which hasn't been updated in 5 or 6 years because I was a sole proprietor until now, and I didn't have the time. It always got pushed to the D list, right, of things to do. But for the fall, I was going to do a special to offer 10 sessions with the software I use. It's called NeuroSage. And again, it's a lot of video games, but sometimes it's just looking at a screen and listening to music. But it's targeted toward what the evaluations show us you need. And I was going to offer a 20% discount on a 10-session package, which is normally $800, and it's going to be $650. Which they're half-hour sessions, but sometimes they take a bit more. If I see something else, I don't ever want to leave something hanging,
Yeah.
I want to take care of it then. So, and I don't know that I have an ideal person to come see me, an ideal type of case. All I know is how
you've got lots of different pieces. That's
all I
wonderful.
know is how my heart feels when I hear that someone's hurting or plateaued or not progressing.
That's
but I
great.
also know how it makes my heart sing when I've been able to help them. So,
well, we are so glad that you have been on this podcast with us. And what a gem, just an absolute gem, and such interesting background to bring into a person's personal journey. So what Jennifer is offering to our audience is a 20% off after you have your assessment to do a 10-session package with her. You can go look her up on the website, yourbbrs.com, and that is YOURBBRS.com. Her name is Jennifer Novak. You can reach out to her, and if you want to have some additional information, that would be the best way to go about it. But you can also reach out to me if you want some more information or perhaps a direct path to make a contact. You can call me at the Connect My Brain office, 678-501-5172. You can always give me a message, private message me on Facebook. I know our BBRS group has a Facebook page. Connect My Brain has a Facebook page. And so there's lots of avenues to connect. And our work is not limited to the Atlanta, Georgia area. These podcasts are going out there, and all of us at this office have the experience of hosting people for intensive programs coming in to town for a week or two. So there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of different type of therapies available. And this is the goal, is to bring a collaborative impact on each and every individual that we are blessed enough to see. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us. We've thoroughly enjoyed having you. And you and I are going to have to do another podcast. I think we should really get into a deep dive conversation on development and reflexes and things like that. I think it could be quite interesting.
I love that idea. And I certainly, just in comments you've made, as we've talked about different people that you're seeing or I'm seeing, I'm like, boy, oh boy, she's got a perspective that I can really draw on and enhance.
Well, that's the idea of collaboration.
Yeah.
We're all, like you said, everything is up here, but it goes a little different, and then on each side. But it's not even just that. It's the experience that you've had in your life that has also influenced how this brain got wired up. And
Right.
of course, we all would have just a little bit different perspectives. So, well, thank you again for being with us. We've enjoyed it.
So I have so enjoyed this myself. And I just wanted to say that with the software, my goal has always started with, I want to help somebody get it, whatever it is, the chronic back pain, the hip flexor thing. They can't turn their foot in when they golf, whatever. But what's happening is we know that the motor system gives rise to the cognitive system.
That's
so that's
right.
really
Yeah.
what's happened. So when I use the software, I mean, I've helped people with a history of dyslexia, ADHD. I've helped people with performance anxiety, with trauma-based muscular issues. I mean, the list goes on because the body and its mechanical capability cannot be separated from how well that brain is working.
Absolutely.
In
Well,
fact,
I really encourage our community. Feel free to reach out. Thank you again for being with us, and I'll see you at the office. Bye.